Everyone, welcome back to Messari's Unqualified Opinions. I'm your host, Ryan Selkis at 2-Bit Idiots. We've got a good one today with Kris Marszalek, who's the co-founder and CEO of Crypto.com. We're going to talk about their new crypto credit card. We're going to talk a bit about payments. Do they still matter in crypto? Jury's still out on that. And some of the DeFi applications that they are working on. As a disclosure, Crypto.com is part of our registry and disclosures initiative, but we certainly hope that that becomes the norm versus the exception, as we've now got 50 participating projects on. So, Kris, thanks for joining the conversation. You kind of sit in this middle market of projects that are large in terms of dollar value and headline value, that have certainly shipped a number of applications, but that still seem to kind of fall below the radar of the general conversation on crypto Twitter, at least in terms of hype. And maybe that's a good or a bad thing. But why don't we start by just talking a little bit about the project and some of the overarching goals of Crypto.com, because there is quite a bit going on, and you've got a few different moving pieces that have shipped even this year. How did the project come into existence, and kind of what are the most important components that people need to know about if they're just getting introduced for the first time?
First of all, thank you for having me, Ryan. Pleasure to be talking to you today. Well, Crypto.com, and our vision is very simple: cryptocurrency in every wallet. And in every product that we release, we try to move this industry forward in terms of adoption. So we started with a Visa card that allows you 24/7 access to your money that you hold in crypto. And we've launched it in Singapore in Q4 last year. And just last month, in July, we began shipping to customers in the US. Besides this payments product, we've got also an interest-earning product, Crypto Earn, allowing you to earn up to 8% per annum on the coin you believe in. So if you deposit in BTC, you earn interest in BTC. If you deposit ETH, you earn interest in ETH, etc. We also issue instant loans on our app, which are collateralized with BTC. So it's a full suite of products, and essentially allowing the cryptocurrency holder to replace their digital banking completely. And like you said, we are not really big on hyping the project up. We are steady builders. We've been working on this for 3 years now. The company has a little over 150 people, and our apps have been downloaded 750 times. So it's small, but slowly gaining traction.
One of the first questions that I asked before we turned the camera on was about stablecoins. So when you think about payments, when you think about interest-bearing products, volatility in the underlying currencies can be quite dramatic. And so if you're thinking about mainstream usage beyond just speculation, how have you built the product so that when someone is spending money or someone is borrowing or lending and earning interest, that it's actually compelling? Because 9 times out of 10, if you had an account that was denominated in Bitcoin, if the principal is swinging wildly in value, the interest doesn't really matter. It gets very messy and can kind of skew some of the incentives in terms of default risk and things like that. And in fact, that's why some of the early crypto lending products failed, right? It wasn't until more recently that you started to see a resurgence there, and it was for different reasons, because it was more about hedging and kind of hedge fund investors managing their own positions. Where does kind of stability of the underlying currency fit in, or how have you thought about that as a challenge for some of these applications that you have?
Well, the way we build the product, it's about giving our users options. So we support fiat, so you can deposit funds in fiat, in dollars, euros, pounds, you name it. So bank transfers are free on our platform. You can buy crypto with credit cards. Our cards are multi-currency, and so you can actually store multiple currencies, fiat currencies, on the card itself. And we support a number of stablecoins on the platform. So users can use the platform any way they want. For the lending product specifically, the way we approach this is built for people who believe in cryptocurrency. So our objective is for our users to have the access to cash if they need it, without the need to actually sell the crypto, right? Mm-hmm. So you've got full spectrum of options. You can, if you want to have the stability of a stable coin or a fiat, you can have it. If you want to have the upside of crypto, you can have it. The platform supports all of it, and that's one of the things that makes it tremendously useful.
What type of usage, maybe even use cases, have you seen for a crypto credit card? Because I remember, even back in 2013, it seems like once a year someone else hypes that a credit card is either coming or has been released. At first it was, I think Coinbase was rumored to do it. Zappo had a credit card. There's been like 6 or 7 of these, I feel like, every couple of years from all walks of life and in the industry. Who's using them, and why are payments still important if you're using kind of the legacy rails, or at least the legacy card infrastructure to transact crypto? It seems counterintuitive.
Yeah. So the first thing is that there might have been attempts to build a product like this before, but this is the first one that actually makes commercial sense for the user. Mm-hmm. So. The sweet spot for us is the card that offers you a 3% cashback in our cryptocurrency, plus a set of perks that are very competitive against the best credit cards offered by banks today. So like access to lounge at the airport, perfect interbank exchange rates if you travel. There's free Spotify, Netflix. There's plenty of perks on this, and those are beautifully designed metal cards. So it's a premium product. Mm-hmm. And if you compare this to your typical Coinbase card, you're probably roughly 5% better off using our card on every transaction, right? So it's just a better deal for the customer. While we as a company also, we are building a native cryptocurrency payment network, the Crypto.com chain, that settles all the transactions instantly, and it's got much lower cost than the Visa network, and it supports all the cryptocurrencies out there. So all the good stuff is built in, but people still need a form factor that they understand. And what Visa brings to the table is acceptance at 50 million merchant locations globally. So you've got this instant utility and instant trust in the product, and plus all the cool perks, and that results in people being really passionate about it, and they really like it. For us, in terms of business strategy, this is a customer acquisition tool. Mm-hmm. So we want to build a large distribution network using these cards, and then we've noticed a clear correlation between users who actually are live with the card. They just transact and use our platform more frequently than users who don't have the card in their wallet.
Can you talk a little bit about the usage of the CRO token versus other cryptocurrencies or other stable coins that could be transacted in the system? Because whenever you talk about an actual currency, right? So not just a utility token or something that's distributed file storage or bandwidth or a governance token in prediction markets, like those all have certain participation rights in the network. It seems like you are hoping that the CRO token will serve as a bona fide currency, but yet you offer all these other more mainstream cryptocurrencies right alongside of it for usage. So where Where does CRO fit in the product? Why do people benefit from using that versus just using Bitcoin and some of these other more liquid assets that have been around for quite a bit longer?
Yeah, so we are basically building a new public chain that is tailored for the cryptocurrency payments networks, and we don't want to restrict users to use CRO for payments. You can use Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the other digital assets for payment. We just need a network that allows merchants to accept any crypto anywhere, literally for free with instant settlement, and the CRO will basically serve as the settlement currency on this network. We compare this solution to what we have with the Visa network, right? So, you've got multi-day settlement times, huge costs of using the network and whatnot. And even today, even with all the work we've put in, well, Visa still transacts in fiat only, right? Same as all the other major card schemes. So we feel there's a need to build infrastructure that allows for all this to happen seamlessly with lower costs. And this is the most ambitious project that we're working on. And if we are successful and we bring millions of merchants onto this platform and eventually tens of millions of consumers, it will help us get closer to this vision of cryptocurrency in every wallet. We are using a very proven go-to-market strategy that worked very well for guys like Alipay and WeChat Pay. So you basically incentivize usage both on merchant side and on the customer side, and you have to complement the incentives with really sleek user experience. It has to be extremely smooth, and we're taking these learnings from large players out of China and trying to deploy it in the cryptocurrency world.
Doesn't it undermine some of the use case for CRO in particular, though? Just the fact that so little of it is currently liquid and floating right now, because you kind of have, well, first of all, let's kind of break down the rollout and kind of treasury of CRO, because it was created all at once. It's not necessarily all liquid. This is one of the things that we're working on with your team is just trying to bring better transparency into how this is going to hit the market. But I actually didn't have a chance to check before this call, but refresh my memory. I think it's only 8 or 9% that's currently circulating right now, and the rest is kind of locked in a number of different programs.
Yes, the circulating supply is around 8%.
Yep. So that's a massive overhang potentially, right? And we've seen this with Stellar. We've talked about this with Ripple. To the extent that people are interested in acquiring CRO, they've got this massive amount of the token supply that is still kind of overhanging, and is going to hit the market over the course of X number of years. So how do you manage that, and how do you think about making sure that the incentives are aligned in the short term, but certainly in the medium and longer term, knowing that if you are to be successful, and if that token is to continue to kind of grow in value, and that token ecosystem is to continue to grow, you've got to do quite a bit in terms of central banking wizardry, or at least setting the structure in place so that this doesn't become problematic. What were some of the design decisions that led you down this path to have such a large reserve?
Well, first of all, we begin with transparency, so we've laid out a clear schedule of token release over the next 5 years, and there is a very strong belief within our team that in order to build a successful network, we need a 5 to 10 year horizon, because this is the kind of time frame that is required to bring on board critical mass of merchants and critical mass of customers, and it's not particularly cost effective either. If you look at the efforts of WeChat Pay, Alipay, they spend literally billions of dollars on incentives for both sides of the platform. So that's how we approach it. Yes, the coin is not particularly liquid today, but there is a clear roadmap of what are we doing every month, every quarter, and every year in order to make sure that it is liquid. And in terms of the token economics, we also published consultation papers so that the community can work with us together on figuring this out. I mean, we've got some proposals in terms of council nodes who will be responsible for transaction processing of how the staking works, and those numbers will be tweaked over time and as we gain traction. I don't think that that you can figure this out 200% 1 decade in advance, but we just keep an open mind and make sure that we are transparent through the process and make sure that we are building products that people actually want to use.
Mm-hmm. So the kind of next key milestones, and you also have an interesting dynamic between MCO, which was, so explain the relationship between CRO and MCO, which was the other related token. One was in ERC20. Where are you in the migration right now?
So we open, in terms of our public chain progress, we've open sourced an early version of testnet, and in September we'll have full public testnet ready for everybody to play around with. Every single milestone that we've set, we are currently accomplishing ahead of the schedule. So mainnet is scheduled for next year, and there's going to be a migration from the ERC20 token for CRO to a mainnet coin. The easiest way to think about the difference between MCO and CRO is, MCO is a utility token that allows you to access to services, centralized custodial services within our app. The ambition for CRO and the Crypto.com chain is to be eventually a fully decentralized network with a native coin that powers this network, and processing all these payments in a fully decentralized way. So building an entire ecosystem around it so that it works even without Crypto.com is the ultimate goal.
The general distribution then for CRO, which would be the mainnet coin, this migration will take place. The current stakeholders in the MCO network will have a small slice of the larger CRO network, and then is it 60% is split or 80% is split between a few different participants? There's this concept of council nodes, customer acquirer nodes. There's a lot going on, but I guess the important takeaway then is these are the different stakeholders that you see in the future chain, not necessarily Crypto.com, the company, reserving and selling off this treasury over time, right? So what is your ongoing stake, and how do you ultimately get some of those other stakeholders to join the fray and ensure that when you do get to mainnet launch, you've got a pretty well distributed system that's working as intended?
Again, we are growing the size of our platform every single day. We are growing at roughly 20% a month right now as a company. So we're at 750K users today. We'll probably hit 1 million users milestone in September. So those numbers are still very small. But if you extrapolate this type of growth rates for 2-3 years, then you get to a decent size of the platform. And with a decent size of the platform, it becomes much easier to onboard merchants and get people to use our payment solution in general. So I guess, again, we start and end with the customer. How do we make this useful? How do we get people to use this? How do we get merchants to use this? This always takes priority over the details of how it's going to be distributed, or the general point of view is that if you bring in millions of merchants on board and tens of millions of customers, the token economics will work itself out. And again, we're very transparent about every step of the way, and we always consult with our community and source ideas of how we can improve it so it works best for all the stakeholders.
Where is your team based, and where's the project based?
Most of our team is based in Hong Kong. We've got a little over 100 people in our Hong Kong office. We've got a team of 40, 50 people in Sofia, Bulgaria, mostly dealing with back office support like customer service, chargeback processing, risk management, kind of what you would expect from a card business. We've got a really tiny presence in the US and Singapore to support our card programs. And just last month, we started an office in Shenzhen and Nanshan, where we're scaling our engineering teams to accelerate the development on the product side.
So is it safe to say that the lion's share of the community then that you're generating right now is in Asia versus the West, or what efforts, if any, have been made in the West? Because this is kind of an ongoing topic that has been coming up more and more the last few weeks. I'm starting to get of the opinion that we as a company, even though we're just data services, we're not even necessarily touching these assets, or a financial services company or a token issuer. I'm wondering if we should even be in the U.S. right now, if we want for this to be a successful, large enterprise, because it's just so painful. What are you seeing, right? Just from if you're pretty well taken care of as a company, domiciled overseas and with most of your operations in Hong Kong. But certainly, as you build out this distributed network, and you do have the U.S. card program and some other applications that you're going to want to roll out here, how do you think about the other stakeholders and kind of incentivizing folks that are going to secure the network and actually use these applications and help scale this, and at least encouraging some type of activity in the U.S. and Europe in particular?
Yeah, so we take compliance first approach here. So again, we didn't bring on board large partners like Visa, and in every region we need banking partners to roll out our product, right? We didn't bring those guys on board without treating compliance seriously. So we KYC every single user on the platform, and we operate in line with local regulations. So in case of a US rollout, we simply go, state by state and review all our product features and how it's communicated. And it's huge overhead. I mean, I'm not going to say it's something simple to do, because it took us over 2 years to launch the US program alone, right? And you've got definitely more restrictions than in some of the international markets in terms of coins that you can list on the platform. You need to tread extremely carefully, and there's a reason why a number of companies in this space are leaving US market altogether, and the cost and the complexity is just enormous. For us, it's still 25-30% of our entire user base. So we've invested so much that we're not gonna pull out of the US. We're just starting there. I guess the bottom line is that you need to be compliant if you want to scale business to millions of users, right? So that's our way of doing it. I mean, we're just not taking any risks over there. We're playing by the rules and slowly building it up.
Where, 25% in the US or 25% in the West? Total?
25 to 30% in the US. Actually, we've got probably a quarter in Europe, and the rest is kind of Asia and rest of the world. So it's a pretty well distributed user base. We've got like 70, 80 countries where our app is available today.
You've got payments. You've got these interest-bearing accounts. What do you see as the growth driver as something that's highly differentiated, that is ultimately going to be the killer app that you promote the most heavily as you approach the mainnet launch next year? Because if the goal is to ultimately build a better, faster back end and facilitate transactions, then it seems like Visa and that partnership is a bit of a stepping stone because that's really the bread and butter that you're trying to go after. But at the same time, the lending market is exploding, right? So the number of companies that have gone from 0 to 100 in crypto lending this year, especially, is just astounding the rate of growth. Are those kind of equal weight? You can't have one without the other. Or what's going to be the one thing that you really need to get right from a product suite to get your foot in the door as a brand and make sure that this is a market that you can continue to scale into, and then maybe cross-sell other services as you win that first application?
We kind of look at this, we look for Amazon Prime as an inspiration. So for us, payments is the distribution platform, right? So no matter our card or our payment network, they will allow us to bring in millions of users into the fray. And products like lending are a way to monetize the users once they come in, and we can generate robust revenues through lending to our user base. So again, the more you land on the platform, the more revenues are generated. You can simply pump more investment back into the payments product in terms of user incentives or new features, and it becomes a self-reinforcing circle. I still believe that payments is the killer app in terms of growing the number of users of cryptocurrency globally. Globally, you've got 50 million people who, for most part, just trade it as a new speculative asset class today, right? If you want to go to 500 million or a billion, there's no better use case than payments. It's just a basic math, right? How many people go to buy groceries every day versus buy stocks every day? It's just that simple.
Mm-hmm. One last question I have, just and it's a little bit more on the technical choices that you're making, I guess, in the medium term, because I feel like we're going to see more migrations and more interoperability across these different protocols, particularly with Polkadot and that system on the horizon. Obviously, Ethereum was the only game in town. You started with an ERC20 token. The goal is to migrate. You're also using Tendermint's consensus algorithm on the back end. So how do you think about the different interoperability solutions and kind of base layer technology stacks? Are these going to be important for you going forward, or are these just stepping stones, right? So you started ERC20. You might use bits and pieces of these other platforms, but at the end of the day, as you hit scale and as you head to your mainnet launch, do you just completely divorce yourselves from these other protocols and just focus on the Crypto.com chain? What's the relationship going to look like going forward?
See, I think that once you have a platform of millions of users, I'm very pragmatic. I think entrepreneurs just don't spend enough time thinking about how they're going to get distribution for the product and how they're going to get people to use it at scale. So for us, 80% of our effort is to grow this platform to scale. And once we are at scale, signing up partners is actually not that complex, because everybody wants to partner with you. Just because you've got scale. I think we have a very transparent and inclusive approach as a company. So we do not intend to build a walled garden that is closed, and we will be definitely open to partnering up with people who bring value to the table. You've mentioned, we are using bits and pieces from Tendermint, some stuff from Cosmos. We've licensed some technology from Intel. We start and end with the customer, not with the technology itself. If we can do a good job for a customer, there's technology out there that helps us get it done for the customer. We're going to bring it in and get it done together. And I really am a strong believer in building networks that don't have a single point of failure. And you can't really do that if you just do everything in-house. And you can't do that if you're building a walled garden. So what you will see from us is, more more open source effort, more partners, bringing more people on board into the ecosystem, but always with customer in mind. Always with customer in mind. Not for the sake of partnerships, just because let's do a partnership.
Well, that's a very Amazonian way to end, I guess. So we'll be on the lookout. So the testnet target date. Do you have a target date in mind, or just going to be sometime in late September?
September. No date yet. September.
Great. And where can people find you? It seems like it should be relatively straightforward to find, given the name of the project. But how can they get involved? And where are some of the areas of greatest need right now on the development side?
Yeah, look, the easiest way to begin is to just go to crypto.com or to Twitter, crypto.com, and follow our progress there. Again, we are very open as a company and always invite people who have great ideas to join us in this journey. It's been remarkable so far, but I think it's just the beginning.
Kris, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. It was a great conversation. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Well, thank you again for tuning in. And this is going to be up on the podcast, available through iTunes and Spotify very soon, through Blockworks Group. In the meantime, stay tuned for some new episodes. We've got a new office that we're moving into, so this is going to be more of a studio setup going forward, I hope, versus me just hopping into WeWork conference room. So if there's any choppiness in the video or there's a little glare behind me, that is going to come to an end, and we're going to continue to level up this podcast and continue to bring in some great guests in Q4 as we roll out some more exciting initiatives here at Messari. Until next time, though, thanks again. Peace.